I should have known the night wasn't going to end the way it began. You ever walk into a room and feel like everything is too perfect? That was me, standing at my daughter's front door, smiling like a proud mother, completely blind to the storm waiting for me. The door swung open, and there she was, my daughter, Emily. Her face lit up the hallway like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. "Mom!" she squealed, pulling me into a hug so tight I almost dropped the bottle of wine I'd brought. I laughed. "Easy, sweetheart. Do you want me to show up empty-handed next time?" She grinned, taking the bottle, her eyes glowing with excitement. "You're going to love him. Just be nice, okay?" That little nervous laugh of hers made me pause. I should have asked why she sounded so worried, but I brushed it off. Tonight was supposed to be special. The house smelled like roasted garlic and fresh bread. Warm lights glowed against the walls. Everything looked cozy, inviting. For once, it felt like family, like we were safe. Then he walked in. "Mrs. Reynolds," he said smoothly, reaching out his hand. "It's an honor to finally meet you. Please call me Claire," I replied, forcing my voice to sound calm even though his handshake was too firm, almost calculated. His smile stretched wide, but his eyes didn't match it. They were sharp, observant, like he was studying me. This was Daniel, the man who wanted to marry my daughter. At first, he seemed perfect, polite, well-dressed, the kind of man any mother would approve of. He laughed at Emily's jokes, complimented the food, even asked me about my work. Everything about him screamed charming fiancé. But then, it happened. I reached across the table for my glass, and the candlelight flickered against my wrist. His gaze followed, landing on the bracelet I always wore. And just like that, the air shifted. His smile faltered. His jaw tightened. His eyes froze on that small silver band, as if the rest of the room had disappeared. I pulled my hand back instinctively. "Something wrong?" I asked. For a second, he didn't answer. His lips parted, but no words came out. Emily laughed nervously to cover the silence. "Daniel?" She nudged him. He blinked rapidly, like he was snapping out of a trance. "Sorry. I just, thought I recognized that bracelet. It's unique." His tone was casual, but his voice cracked slightly at the end. I caught it. Emily didn't. "Oh, this old thing?" I said lightly, trying to brush it off. My chest felt tight. "It was a gift, nothing special." But the way his knuckles whitened around his fork told me it was very special to him. The rest of dinner played out like a performance. Daniel smiled, joked, and asked polite questions, but every few minutes, his eyes flicked back to the bracelet. Each time, I felt my stomach twist tighter. Emily was too lost in her happiness to notice. She leaned into him, laughed at his jokes, held his hand under the table. She looked at him like he was her whole future. And maybe he was. But why did it feel like he was staring straight into my past? At one point, Emily excused herself to check on dessert, leaving me and Daniel alone at the table. He leaned back in his chair, swirling the wine in his glass. His smile stayed plastered on, but his eyes never left my wrist. "So," he said softly, almost too softly, "you've had that bracelet a long time?" My throat went dry. "Yes." "Why?" He tilted his head, studying me. "No reason. Just, I swear I've seen it before." I forced a laugh. "You must be mistaken. Lots of bracelets look alike." But he didn't laugh back. His smile tightened. His knee bounced under the table, restless. "No. This one is different." The way he said it sent a chill crawling up my spine. Emily returned, balancing a tray of chocolate mousse, completely oblivious. "Everything okay?" she asked cheerfully. "Perfect," Daniel answered, flashing his charming grin. He reached out, touched her arm gently, like nothing had happened. But when she turned away, I saw his eyes dart back to me, to the bracelet. I felt trapped. The rest of the evening blurred together. Laughter, stories, clinking glasses. I smiled, I nodded, I played the role of the proud mother. But inside, my mind spun in circles. Why did he react like that? How could he possibly know about the bracelet? And if he did, what did that mean for me? By the time I left that night, Emily hugged me goodbye with the kind of joy that made my heart ache. "See?" she whispered. "You like him, don't you?" I kissed her cheek, forcing a smile. "He seems perfect." But as I walked to my car, I felt his eyes on me from the window. Watching, studying, waiting. That bracelet wasn't just jewelry to him. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The past I thought I'd buried wasn't buried at all. And Daniel wasn't just my daughter's fiancé, he was a ghost from the life I had tried so hard to forget. I never thought a single piece of jewelry could drag me back into hell. But the second I saw his eyes lock onto my wrist, I knew. He wasn't just admiring it, he knew it. I shifted in my chair, trying to keep my hand steady as I reached for the wine glass. My daughter Emily was laughing beside him, her hand resting on his. She had no idea. None. But I did. That look, wide eyes, frozen smile, the way his Adam's apple bobbed when he swallowed, wasn't random. It was recognition. And recognition meant connection. "Are you okay, Mark?" Emily tilted her head at him. Mark blinked, forcing a grin. Yeah. Just nice bracelet your mom's got there. Vintage?" My throat tightened. His voice was too casual, too forced. I caught the faint twitch at the corner of his mouth, the way his fingers tapped nervously on the tablecloth. He was lying. I managed to smile, though it felt like my lips were stitched together. "It was a gift, a long time ago." Emily brightened. "See, Mom loves sentimental things. She keeps everything that matters." Her words cut deeper than she knew. Sentimental? If she only understood what that bracelet cost me. Mark's eyes didn't leave it. His pupils dilated slightly, and his jaw flexed. He was remembering. And so was I. The memory hit me like a punch. A hotel room. Dim lights. That same bracelet glinting on the nightstand while I sat on the edge of the bed, humiliated, betrayed. The man I trusted most had handed it to me as an apology gift. An apology for lies. For nights I thought he was working late. For every whispered phone call he tried to hide. I had buried that night so deep I swore I'd never dig it up. Not even for Emily. Especially not for her. And yet here it was, back in my dining room, at my table. Emily reached for the breadbasket, oblivious. "So, Mark, did you tell Mom how we met? It's kind of funny." Mark chuckled weakly, but his eyes darted to me again. Yeah, at that coffee shop downtown." "Yeah." Emily grinned. "He spilled his latte all over my notes. And then he bought me a new one. That's how it started." She beamed at him, squeezing his hand. I should have been smiling with her. A mother should be happy watching her daughter fall in love. But my stomach churned, because I knew that look in his eyes. He wasn't remembering a coffee shop. He was remembering me. I leaned back, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Funny how small the world is, isn't it?" Mark froze again. He tried to laugh, but it came out sharp, brittle. "Yeah, small world." Emily glanced between us, confused. "What's wrong? You two look like you've seen a ghost." Neither of us answered. Inside, my chest was pounding so hard I thought the table would shake with it. I wanted to rip the bracelet off, to throw it across the room. But part of me couldn't. Part of me needed to see how much he knew. I cleared my throat. "Mark, you seem distracted. Are you sure you're okay?" He blinked rapidly, his forced smile slipping. His fingers gripped the edge of the tablecloth, knuckles whitening. "I'm fine. Just that bracelet. I swear I've seen it before." Emily tilted her head. "Really? Where?" Mark's eyes flicked to me, just for a second. But that second was enough. I saw it. The recognition. The fear. And in that moment I knew. He wasn't just some random guy from Emily's coffee shop. He was connected to my past, to that night, to the man who ruined everything. My heart dropped like a stone. Emily frowned. "Mom? You look pale. Are you sick?" I shook my head quickly, forcing a laugh. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired." But my thoughts were spinning too fast to stop. Why was Mark here? Why was he with my daughter? Was it coincidence? Fate? Or something darker? I glanced at the bracelet again, the metal cold against my skin. I had kept it all these years as a reminder never to be that naive again. Never to trust so blindly. And now it had become the one thing I couldn't hide. Dinner went on, but every bite turned to ash in my mouth. Emily chatted happily about their wedding plans, about the venue she wanted, the colors, the songs. Mark nodded along, but his smile never reached his eyes, and I never stopped watching him. The way his fork paused midair when I shifted my wrist, the way his knee bounced under the table, the way he kept glancing at me, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Every movement screamed tension. Every second confirmed it. Finally, Emily excused herself to grab dessert from the kitchen. The second she left the room, Mark leaned closer. His voice dropped low, almost a whisper. "Where did you get that bracelet?" The hairs on my arms stood on end. I forced a shrug. "I told you. It was a gift." His eyes narrowed. From who? My heart hammered. He knew. He already knew. I held his stare, forcing my voice to stay calm. That doesn't matter. Mark's jaw tightened. It matters to me. Before I could respond, Emily's footsteps echoed back toward the dining room. Mark leaned back instantly, plastering on a smile. Everything okay? Emily asked, carrying a tray of desserts. Perfect, Mark said smoothly, but his eyes flicked to my bracelet one last time. And that's when it hit me. Whatever secret tied us together, it wasn't buried. It was alive, breathing, sitting at my table. And if I didn't figure it out, it was going to destroy us. I wish I could tell you I imagined it. That maybe the wine, the dim light, or my own paranoia made me see things that weren't there. But no. His eyes told me everything. Every time my wrist moved, his gaze followed. Not with casual curiosity, with intensity. Like the bracelet was speaking to him. I forced myself to laugh at Emily's story about her new coworker, but I could barely hear her. My chest tightened with every glance he stole. And then, there it was. That flicker. A flash of rage before he masked it with a smile. Emily nudged him. You're quiet, Mark. Don't tell me you're bored already. He shook his head quickly, lips stretching into a grin that didn't touch his eyes. No, not at all. Just enjoying the evening. But I saw it. The twitch at the corner of his mouth. The way his fingers drummed against the table. Too fast, too sharp. Emily didn't notice. She was glowing. My daughter, so in love, too blinded by happiness to see the cracks spreading beneath the surface. I took a sip of wine, praying it would steady me. It didn't. You okay, Mom? Emily asked suddenly. I startled, nearly spilling my glass. Yes. Of course. Why? You seem distracted. I smiled tightly. Just tired. But my thoughts wouldn't let go. That recognition in his eyes, it wasn't vague. It was personal, direct. And then the guilt hit, sharp and merciless. If this man really was tied to that night, then Emily wasn't just marrying a stranger. She was walking straight into the arms of my past. I leaned back, studying him. He was young, handsome, polite, the perfect son-in-law on paper. But no amount of good manners could hide what I was seeing. I caught his eye. For a second, either of us looked away. And in that second, I saw more than recognition. I saw pain. And underneath it, simmering rage. He blinked, broke the stare, and reached for his water. But his hand shook, just slightly. Everything all right? I asked softly. His head jerked up. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be? His tone was sharp. Too sharp. Emily frowned. Mark. He forced a laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. Sorry. Long day, I guess. But I wasn't buying it. Inside, memories clawed at me. That night. The lies. The betrayal. I thought I'd buried it. But now it felt like it was sitting right across the table, smiling at my daughter. My stomach churned. What if he knew everything? What if this wasn't a coincidence at all? I clenched my hand under the table, hiding the bracelet from view. But it was too late. He'd already seen it, already connected the dots. And maybe, just maybe, he hated me for it. Emily reached for the dessert plates. Mom, could you grab the whipped cream from the fridge? I nodded, grateful for the excuse to leave the room. My legs trembled as I walked into the kitchen. The second I was out of sight, I let out a shaky breath. What are the odds? What are the odds that my daughter's fiancé would have anything to do with him? With that night? But deep down, I knew better. Life doesn't deal coincidences like that. I heard footsteps. I turned, and Mark was there. Too close. His smile was gone. His jaw was tight. His eyes burned into me. Where did you really get that bracelet? He whispered. The air left my lungs. I froze, gripping the counter behind me. I told you. It was a gift. From who? His voice was low, controlled, but trembling with something darker. I swallowed hard. That's none of your concern. His nostrils flared. He leaned in, so close I could see the flicker of veins in his temple. It is my concern. Before I could respond, Emily's voice called from the dining room. Everything okay in there? Mark stepped back instantly, smile snapping back onto his face like a mask. Yeah, just helping your mom. I forced my lips into something resembling a grin. We're fine, sweetheart. But my heart wasn't fine. My mind wasn't fine. Because in that fleeting moment, his eyes told me the truth. He knew. I carried the whipped cream back to the table, but my hand shook so badly I nearly dropped it. Emily laughed, oblivious, chatting about the wedding cake flavors she wanted. Mark nodded along, every word smooth, every smile perfect. But his eyes, those eyes, never left me. Pain, recognition, rage, and something else. Something that made my blood run cold. Because whatever secret tied us together, it wasn't just about the past. It was about the future. And my daughter's future was hanging by a thread. I wish I could tell you I saw it coming. But the truth is, I walked straight into the trap. Dinner was over, the laughter from the table still echoing faintly in the hallway. My stomach sat heavy with unease, not from the food but from the way Gary's eyes had followed me all night. I thought I was safe once the dishes were cleared. I was wrong. He leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. Can we talk? Privately. His voice was low, sharp. Not a request, an order. I followed him down the narrow hallway, every step tightening the knot in my chest. The walls seemed closer, the air colder. The charm in his smile had evaporated. Gary shut the door behind us with a slow, deliberate click. Where did you get it? His eyes were fixed on my wrist. I swallowed hard. Get what? That bracelet. He jabbed a finger at the silver band circling my wrist. His jaw was tight, the vein in his temple twitching. Don't play dumb with me. He began pacing, 3 steps forward, 2 back, like a caged animal rehearsing his attack. His hands flexed, then curled into fists. The mask of the charming dinner guest was gone. What stood before me was something raw, coiled, dangerous. I found it at the market. I stammered. It was nothing. Just a piece of jewelry. Gary stopped pacing. His lips curved into a smile that wasn't a smile at all. Too tight. Too forced. That bracelet, he said slowly, belonged to my mother. The room tilted. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought he could hear it. His mother? I wanted to deny it, laugh it off, but the glint in his eyes pinned me in place. She wore it the night she died, he whispered. His voice cracked on the word died. And you're wearing it like it's yours. I shook my head. I didn't know. Gary, I swear I didn't know. He stepped closer, blocking the door with his body. Do you even understand what that means? Do you understand what you've walked into? His forced smile collapsed, replaced by a snarl that twisted his features. He loomed over me, shoulders squared, arms braced against the doorframe. I was cornered. I wanted to scream, to run, but my voice caught in my throat. The bracelet felt suddenly heavier on my wrist, like a chain binding me to his fury. Tell me the truth, Gary said, each word clipped and deliberate. Who gave it to you? I told you, I bought it. My voice cracked. I don't know your mother. I don't know anything about her. His eyes narrowed. A muscle in his cheek twitched. You think I'm stupid? He hissed. That bracelet disappeared the night she never came home. And now it shows up on you? The way he said it, the pause, the slip, made my blood run cold. There was something more here. Something he wasn't telling me. The air in the room thickened, pressing down on me. His shadow stretched long across the floor, cutting me off from the door. The ceiling light flickered, buzzing like a dying insect. Gary leaned in, so close I could smell the bitterness of wine on his breath. If you're lying to me, he whispered, I'll know. And if you're not, his smile flickered back, thin as a blade. Then maybe you're part of something you don't even understand. His words coiled around me, choking, dragging me deeper into a web I hadn't even known existed. And then his hand shot out, not for me, but for the bracelet. His fingers closed around my wrist like a shackle, and I realized too late, I was never meant to leave this room the same. What if the secret you buried years ago came back wearing someone else's face, and accusing you of murder? The moment Gary's hand clamped around my wrist, the years I had spent running collapsed like paper walls. The bracelet's cold weight pressed against my skin, and with it, memories I swore I'd never speak of again. He stared at me, his eyes sharp, wild, desperate. Tell me what you know, he demanded. Tell me what you did to her. My throat tightened. Gary, you don't understand. Don't lie to me. His voice cracked like a whip. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, his jaw twitching. He wasn't just angry, he was unraveling. I wanted to look away, but his face dragged me back in time. Back to her, his mother, the scandal, the forbidden connection that should have stayed buried. I hadn't thought about that night in years, but the smell of the rain, the flicker of police lights, the metallic taste of panic, it all crashed over me again. She was elegant, magnetic, untouchable, until she wasn't. Until whispers of betrayal circled her like vultures. You think I don't remember? Gary pressed on. He released my wrist only to jab a finger into my chest. They said she died in an accident, but I know better. You were there. My chest ached with every breath. He wasn't wrong. I had been there. Just not the way he imagined. Gary, I whispered, my voice breaking. She was kind to me. Kinder than anyone had been. I didn't hurt her. I loved her like... I stopped myself. The words felt too dangerous, too close to the truth. He narrowed his eyes, searching my face like he could peel the lies from my skin. His lips twitched into a half-smile, forced, brittle. Then why did she die wearing that bracelet? And why the hell are you wearing it now? The bracelet. Always the bracelet. It wasn't just jewelry. It was proof, a relic of secrets exchanged in the dark, of promises made and broken. She had given it to me once, pressing it into my palm with trembling fingers. Keep this safe. If anything happens to me, you'll know why. But I hadn't kept it safe. I had buried it. Along with everything else. Answer me! Gary's voice shook, loud enough to rattle the picture frames on the wall. He stepped closer, closing the space until his chest almost touched mine. His hand shot out, slamming against the wall beside my head. The sound made me flinch. I forced myself to meet his eyes. I didn't kill her. My voice was steadier than I felt. But she was destroyed long before that night. By people who wanted her gone. By people more powerful than you and me. He froze, searching my expression, the muscles in his jaw working. Who? His tone softened, but his eyes burned hotter. Who wanted her gone? My pulse pounded. I couldn't say their names. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I could see it in his face. He wouldn't stop until he had someone to blame. You wouldn't believe me, I whispered. And if you did, it would kill you faster than it killed her. For a moment, silence filled the room. The weight of the past pressed down on both of us, suffocating, heavy. He drew back slightly, but his gaze never wavered. You're hiding something, he said quietly. His voice wasn't sharp now. It was low, trembling, almost broken. I can see it in your eyes. And he was right. My eyes had always betrayed me. The image of his mother lying on the floor, lifeless, her bracelet glinting under the weak light, stabbed through me. I'd never told anyone. Not about the argument. Not about the forbidden connection that shattered everything. Not about how I had walked away when she needed me most. Gary's hand trembled as he reached out again, brushing his fingers against the bracelet like it might burn him. This is all I have left of her, he whispered. And it's on you. Do you know what that does to me? My chest tightened with guilt and fear. I shouldn't have worn it, I admitted. But it found me again. I thought I'd buried it forever, and yet, here it is. Just like you. Just like the truth I tried to escape. He laughed suddenly, a hollow, fractured sound that chilled me to the bone. The truth doesn't stay buried. You of all people should know that. And then he leaned closer, his lips brushing my ear as he whispered the words that turned my blood to ice. If you didn't kill her, then why does every piece of evidence point straight to you? What if the person you raised with love looked you in the eye and chose a stranger over you? I need to talk to you, I whispered, catching my daughter alone in the kitchen. My hands trembled as I gripped the counter, the weight of Gary's accusations still clinging to me. She turned, her face glowing with that blind, innocent happiness I hadn't seen in years. If this is about Gary, it is, I cut in, my voice sharper than I intended. Sweetheart, you don't know him the way I do. He's hiding something. Dangerous things. Her smile faltered, but only for a second. Then her chin lifted, stubborn as ever. No. You just don't like him. You never gave him a chance. That's not true, I said quickly, my chest tightening. I tried. But I've seen the way he looks at me when you're not watching. The anger. The accusations. He's not the man you think he is. She folded her arms, her body stiff, eyes narrowing at me. Why are you doing this? Why now? I'm finally happy, and you can't stand it. Her words sliced deeper than she knew. Do you really believe that? My voice cracked. Yes, she snapped. You've been alone for so long, bitter, holding on to your past. You see danger in everything. But Gary loves me, and I love him. I shook my head, fighting the panic clawing up my throat. You don't understand. He hates me, and he has reason to. You don't know his past. I don't care about his past, she shouted, her eyes shining with tears. I care about our future. Why can't you just be happy for me? Her words twisted inside me like knives. I reached out, desperate, but she pulled away, her shoulders tightening. You think I'm jealous of you? I asked softly. Her silence said everything. Sweetheart, I whispered, trying to steady my breathing. I would burn myself to ashes if it meant protecting you. But this man… She cut me off, her voice sharp and trembling. Stop calling him this man. His name is Gary. He's going to be my husband. And if you can't accept that, then maybe you shouldn't be part of my life at all. My heart nearly stopped. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of movement, Gary standing in the doorway, leaning against the frame. His lips curled into the faintest smirk, so quick my daughter didn't notice. But I did. A deliberate flash of victory. I froze, my throat tight. He raised his eyebrows slightly, mocking me, then stepped forward with that carefully practiced warmth in his voice. Everything okay here? He asked, his hand resting lightly on my daughter's shoulder. She melted into him, wiping her tears as though he was her savior. Yes, she said quickly, glaring at me. We're fine. Gary's eyes met mine over her head. He didn't speak, but the message was clear. She's mine now. You've already lost. I wanted to scream, to tear the truth from my chest and throw it in his face. But the words died in my throat as my daughter clung to him, choosing him over me. And in that moment, I realized the cruelest truth of all. The man who wanted to destroy me had found the perfect weapon, my own daughter. I thought digging into the past would give me answers. Instead, it ripped open wounds I'd tried to bury, and dragged me back into the darkness I thought I'd escaped. The house felt too quiet the night I made the decision. My daughter's laughter still echoed faintly in my head from earlier that day, when she brushed off my concerns with a glare sharp enough to slice me in half. I couldn't let it end there. If she refused to see the truth, then I would uncover it myself. I spread old files across the kitchen table, dusty papers, forgotten photographs, brittle letters I had sworn I'd never touch again. My hand shook as I read names I hadn't spoken aloud in decades. Friends, enemies, people who had all blurred together into the same category, ghosts of a life I tried to leave behind. One folder caught my eye. Yellowed edges. The faint smell of mildew. Inside were hospital reports, timelines, depositions, pieces of a puzzle that had never been fully solved. My daughter's fiancé, Mark, was tied to them through his mother, a woman who had looked me in the eye once and spat words so venomous they still burned in my ears. You ruined us. You'll pay for it. Even on paper, her handwriting carried that same bitterness. I followed the trail through old contacts, late-night calls, hushed questions, favors I hated to ask. Each voice I reached out to carried hesitation, like they were afraid of the past too. Some hung up the moment I mentioned Mark's mother. Others spoke in fragments, careful not to say too much, as if someone might be listening. The deeper I went, the heavier the air around me became. Every record pointed to the same thing. Mark had grown up drowning in his mother's resentment. It wasn't just grief, it was poison, passed from parent to child, and he had drunk every drop. But then, something I didn't expect. In one set of court transcripts, buried under layers of redacted lines, another name appeared. A man I knew all too well. Not her husband, not her family. Someone else, someone darker. I froze, my finger tracing the blacked-out text. Memories slammed into me, his smirk, the way he used to linger in doorways, the threats he whispered when no one was around. I had always suspected his involvement, but there had never been proof. And here it was, hidden, ignored, swept aside. A chill ran down my spine. Mark thought I was the reason his mother died. But the truth was so much worse. Someone else had pushed her over the edge, and he had escaped justice completely. My phone buzzed. A private number. I answered, my voice low. Who is this? A pause. Breathing. Then a man's rasp. Stop digging. You won't like what you find. My chest tightened. You should have been locked away years ago. A laugh, cold, humorless. Funny. That's exactly what she used to say. The line went dead. For a moment I just sat there, the silence pressing against my ears. Whoever he was, he knew I was pulling at the threads again. He wasn't afraid. He was warning me. I leaned back, staring at the files scattered across the table. My daughter's blind devotion to Mark wasn't just stubbornness. It was the product of a story he'd been fed his whole life. A story twisted by grief, edited by lies, sharpened into a weapon with my name carved into the blade. But the real enemy was still out there. And if I didn't uncover him fully, Mark's rage would keep building, aimed directly at me. The next day, I went to see an old colleague. A man who owed me nothing but carried guilt heavy enough to bend his shoulders. His office smelled of stale coffee and regret. "You shouldn't be here," he said, closing the blinds before I'd even sat down. "This isn't your fight anymore. It's my daughter's future." I shot back. "Tell me what you know." He rubbed his temples, eyes flicking toward the door. "Mark's mother, she wasn't destroyed by you. She was manipulated, pressured. He was there. Always there. You know who I mean." The name sat between us like a loaded gun. "Why wasn't he brought in?" I whispered. "Too connected. Too careful. He slipped through. And if you expose him now, he won't just come for you. He'll come for her. Her. My daughter." The words carved into me like knives. I walked out of that office with more weight than answers. The city around me blurred, cars honking, strangers rushing past, the ordinary rhythm of life mocking the storm unraveling inside my chest. At home, I found my daughter waiting. She stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, jaw tight. "You went digging, didn't you?" she demanded. Her eyes, so much like mine, yet burning with defiance, met mine without flinching. "I'm trying to protect you," I said quietly. "No," she snapped. "You're trying to destroy him. Just admit it." The files on the table between us felt like landmines, proof of everything. Proof she wasn't ready to see. I reached for the papers, but she slammed her hand down, blocking me. "Stop," she hissed. "If you keep this up, you'll lose me forever." Her voice cracked, but her eyes stayed hard. That's when I knew Mark had already poisoned her against me completely. And yet I couldn't stop. Not now. Not with the shadow of that other man circling closer. I swallowed, forcing my voice steady. "There's more to this than you know." "Then maybe I don't want to know," she said. The words hit harder than any threat. I turned away before she could see the tears burning in my eyes. Because the truth was clear. The deeper I dug, the more dangerous it became. Not just for me, but for her. And somewhere out there, the man who had ruined everything was watching, waiting for me to take one step too far. I thought I was chasing answers, but in reality, I just painted a target on my back, and worse, on hers. I used to think hatred was loud, shouts, slammed doors, broken things. But real hatred, it's quiet. It's whispered into someone else's ear until they believe it's their own voice. Every time I looked at my daughter now, I saw his shadow beside her. Mark didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't even need to argue with me anymore. He simply leaned down, close enough for her to feel his breath on her skin, and let his lies drip like poison. "You know she's just jealous," he murmured one night when he thought I couldn't hear. His tone was soft, almost tender. "She's always wanted control. She'll never let you be happy." I caught the flicker in her eyes, the hesitation, the bite of her lip, and then the way she nodded, almost imperceptibly. My chest tightened. Later, when I confronted her, she exploded. "Why can't you just let me live my life?" Her face was flushed, hands clenched at her sides. "I'm trying to protect you," I whispered. Her laugh was sharp, brittle. "Protect me? Or control me? Because all I see is someone terrified of losing power." I stood frozen, because those weren't her words. They were his. Days blurred together, each one worse than the last. I'd find her staring at me across the table, suspicion clouding her eyes. Once, she caught me sorting through old files and slammed the drawer shut. "You're obsessed," she hissed. "You need help." Behind her, Mark appeared in the doorway. He leaned casually against the frame, arms folded, lips curled in a faint smile. A calculated smile. The kind meant to look harmless but stretched too long, too tight. His eyes never left mine. In that moment I saw it, his satisfaction at watching her tear into me. He didn't have to lift a finger. He was dismantling me with her hands. Nights became unbearable. I'd hear muffled conversations through the walls, his low voice weaving false narratives. My daughter's sobs would follow, then his soothing reassurances. "She doesn't love you the way I do. She'll never accept us. She'll ruin everything." And each morning, she'd look at me with a little less warmth, a little more distance. One evening, as we sat at dinner, Mark made his move. "Funny, isn't it?" he said casually, twirling his fork between his fingers. "How parents always think they know best, even when their children are adults." My daughter stiffened. She glanced at me, waiting for my reaction. "I've never claimed to know best," I said slowly. "But I know danger when I see it." Mark chuckled, shaking his head. "Danger? You mean competition. Admit it, you're afraid she'll choose me over you." His eyes glittered, daring me to lash out. I looked at my daughter, but she was already pulling her hand away from mine, her expression carved in stone. Mark leaned back, lips twitching, a forced casualness, but I saw the tension in his jaw. The control he fought to maintain. He was winning, and he knew it. After dinner, he cornered me in the hallway. No one else around. "You're making this too easy," he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. "Every time you fight me, she loves me more." His hand brushed my shoulder, just enough to make my skin crawl, just enough to remind me he could touch without permission. I held his gaze, refusing to flinch. "You're destroying her." He tilted his head, smile widening. "No. I'm remaking her into someone who doesn't need you anymore." His eyes flicked down the hall where she disappeared into her room. "And when she finally shuts you out for good, that's when you'll understand what real revenge feels like." That night I lay awake, the ceiling a blur above me. His words replayed over and over. He didn't care about her happiness. She wasn't a partner to him. She was a weapon. A blade sharpened against me, every edge designed to cut deeper. And he was patient. Patient enough to let her draw the blood herself. I used to believe the worst pain came from enemies. But watching my own daughter turn into his mouthpiece, that was the kind of agony I wasn't sure I could survive. They say silence keeps the peace. But I learned the hard way. Silence only feeds the wolf at your door. I knew if I kept swallowing his poison, it would kill me from the inside. Mark thrived on my restraint. Every time I bit my tongue, he smiled wider, more certain of his control. He thought he'd broken me, and maybe for a while, he had. But I wasn't broken. I was waiting. The bracelet sat on the table between us, its silver chain catching the kitchen light. To anyone else it was just jewelry. To him, it was proof, his obsession, his weapon. I curled my fingers around my mug, forcing my hand not to shake. "Funny how small things carry so much weight," I said softly, eyes fixed on the bracelet. Mark tilted his head, lips twitching like he'd been handed a gift. "It's not the object. It's what it reveals." He leaned closer, voice dipping low. "And you've revealed plenty." Inside, my pulse thundered. Outside, I smiled. "Then let's settle it," I whispered. That night I staged it. I left the bracelet in the one place I knew he couldn't resist, half hidden in my dresser drawer. Not enough to look deliberate, just enough to bait him. As I placed it there, my hands trembled. If I miscalculated, if he saw through me, he'd twist it until my daughter believed I'd framed him. She already stood one step away from the edge. One wrong move, and she'd fall entirely into his arms. But I had no choice. I had to drag the monster into the light. The next morning, I made sure to leave my bedroom door slightly open. I brewed coffee, keeping my ears tuned to the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't move. The boards creaked outside my door. A pause. Then, the faint scrape of the dresser drawer sliding open. I gripped my mug so tight it burned my palm. When he emerged, he wore his usual mask, a casual smile, hands in his pockets. But his left hand twitched, the tiniest nervous tick. And in his pocket, something heavy weighed the fabric down. "You're up early," he said smoothly. I sipped my coffee. Couldn't sleep. Our eyes met. For the first time, I didn't look away. Later, when my daughter came into the kitchen, he played his part to perfection. "Sweetheart," he said warmly, pulling the bracelet from his pocket like a magician revealing a trick. "Look what I found." Her eyes widened. "Where was it?" "In her drawer." He jerked his chin toward me, eyebrows lifting in mock sorrow. "Exactly where I said it would be." The betrayal in her gaze hit like a knife. I forced myself not to flinch. "You really believe I'd hide it?" I asked her directly. Mark chuckled, low and cold. "Isn't it obvious?" For a heartbeat, the room spun with silence. I could almost see the scales tipping in her mind, weighing his words against mine. So I pushed. "Check the drawer yourself," I said steady. "Look for fingerprints. Smudges. Anything. Because if I'd planted it, don't you think I would have cleaned up after myself?" Her brow furrowed. Mark's jaw tightened. A flicker, barely there, but I saw it. His perfect mask cracking. He stepped forward, blocking my line of sight to her. "Don't let her confuse you," he snapped, sharper than usual. "This is what she does. Twists things." I moved too, circling the table, refusing to let him shield her from me. "Or maybe this is what you do. Set traps and hope no one notices the strings you're pulling." For the first time, my daughter looked uncertain. Her arms crossed, shoulders hunched. She wasn't convinced. Not yet. But she wasn't entirely his anymore either. Mark sensed it too. His smile returned, stretched and forced. She'll say anything to make me look bad. I leaned close, voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. Then prove me wrong. Leave the bracelet out in the open. Let her decide for herself where it belongs. His nostrils flared. His composure slipped. A bead of sweat glistened near his hairline. And in that tiny crack I saw it. Fear. That night, as I lay awake, my daughter's footsteps passed my door, hesitating before continuing down the hall. She hadn't spoken to me after dinner, but she hadn't spoken to him either. The trap was set. The bait had been taken. Now, all I could do was wait for the teeth to close. I thought setting the trap would give me power, but as I lay in the dark, listening for the creak of footsteps, I realized something terrifying. Sometimes the hunter doesn't survive their own snare. I thought I'd be the one trembling when the truth came out. But when it finally exploded, it wasn't me who broke, it was him. The house felt too small for what was about to happen. The walls seemed to lean in, pressing the air from my lungs. My palms were slick, my fingers twitching against the stack of papers and photographs in front of me. This was it. No more hiding. No more waiting. I had invited them all, the family, the neighbors who had known his mother, and 2 people who owed me nothing but the truth. My daughter sat stiffly at the edge of the sofa, arms folded, her fiancé's hand clamped around hers like a vice. His smile was too wide, his knee bouncing fast, betraying the calm face he was trying to wear. I could almost hear his heartbeat from across the room. "Why are we here?" he asked lightly, though his jaw pulsed. "Some kind of intervention?" I kept my eyes on him. "Something like that." He leaned back, pretending to relax, but his shoulders rose an inch higher. My daughter looked at me, frustration carved deep into her face. "Mom, what is this? Why are you dragging everyone into this drama?" Because if I told her alone, he'd twist it. Because if I faced him without witnesses, he'd bury me. "Because you deserve the truth," I said softly. I started with the bracelet. I set it on the table between us, silver, innocent, gleaming in the light. His eyes flicked to it instantly, the way a starving man looks at food. "This," I said, "isn't just jewelry. It belonged to his mother. And for years he's believed I had something to do with her death." Gasps rippled through the room. My daughter's eyes widened. "What?" Her fiancé squeezed her hand harder, cutting her circulation. "She's lying," he snapped too quickly. "She's twisting everything." "Am I?" I slid the first photo across the table. His mother, alive, smiling, wearing the bracelet. "I wasn't even in town the night she died." "You know who was?" I placed another photo. His uncle. The man who had always hovered on the edges of family gatherings, quiet, watchful. Whispers broke out. He stiffened. His mask cracked for just a second. His eyes darted to the photo, then back to me. "That proves nothing," he hissed. "Then let's move on." I lifted the stack of police reports, yellowed with age. My hands shook, but I forced the words out. "The accident that killed your mother? It wasn't an accident. The car had been tampered with, and the fingerprints on the tools used? They weren't mine. They weren't even my husband's. They belonged to someone in your own bloodline." The room fell silent. You could have heard the clock ticking on the wall. His fiancé's mouth fell open. "Who?" she whispered. I let the silence stretch. Suspense hung heavy, every breath sharp and shallow. Then I said it. "Your uncle." It hit like a grenade. Gasps, shouts. My daughter pressed a hand to her chest, her eyes darting between me and him. "Is this true?" He shot up from his seat, pacing, fingers clawing through his hair. A nervous tick I'd seen before. "She's making this up. She forged those papers. She's desperate to break us apart." But the panic in his voice betrayed him. "Sit down," I said firmly. He spun toward me, his face red, sweat shining on his forehead. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to rewrite history." I stood too, my knees weak but my voice strong. "I'm not rewriting it. I'm correcting it. Your mother's death was a tragedy. But the person you've been punishing for it all these years, the person you wanted revenge against, was never me." His breathing turned shallow, ragged. His eyes flicked to my daughter, searching desperately for her faith. She pulled her hand back, slowly, as if realizing for the first time that maybe she'd been holding a stranger all along. "Tell me it's not true," she whispered to him. "Please." He tried. God, he tried. "Baby, you can't believe her. She's manipulating you. She's been manipulating all of us. But his voice cracked, his lips trembled. And that was all it took, the neighbors murmured. One of the witnesses, an old friend of his mother's, stepped forward. I always suspected something, she said quietly. Your uncle was the last person to see her alive. He lied about his alibi. Another blow. He staggered back, clutching the edge of the table. His forced smile was gone. His face twisted, ugly with rage and fear. You ruined this, he spat at me. You ruined everything. I shook my head. No. I just ended your lie. The silence that followed was unbearable. My daughter sobbed into her hands. The witnesses exchanged uneasy glances. And he stood frozen, trembling, staring at the bracelet as though it had betrayed him too. And then, very softly, he whispered, It should have been you. Chills crawled down my spine. Because in that moment I knew, his plan had never been just revenge through manipulation. It had always been darker, much darker. As the bracelet gleamed between us, I realized the confrontation wasn't over. The truth had cracked him open, but monsters don't vanish when the mask falls. Sometimes, that's when they're most dangerous. I always thought his rage would break me. I never imagined it would finally break him. The silence in the room was suffocating. My daughter sat frozen, her hands trembling in her lap. And then, it happened. He snapped. You think you can destroy me with lies? His voice cracked, louder than it had ever been. He slammed his fist against the table so hard the bracelet rattled. His face twisted, veins bulging at his neck, the calm facade completely gone. Every mask he had worn peeled off in one violent second. Stop, my daughter whispered, her voice shaking. Just stop. He spun toward her, eyes wild. Don't you see what she's doing? She's poisoning you against me. She's always been against us. I could see the storm inside her, the part of her that wanted to believe him, battling the part that was finally, painfully, seeing the truth. And then his body betrayed him again. The forced smile, the nervous tics, the pacing like a trapped animal. You lied, she said softly. Not a question. A fact. His eyes widened. No, I did this for us. For you. For your future. He grabbed her wrist too tightly, desperation dripping from every syllable. She flinched. And that was it. The line he had crossed one too many times. Let go, she said louder now, her voice shaking but steady. He froze, hands still clamped on her. Then, slowly, she yanked it free. You've been lying to me since the beginning, she whispered. Tears streaked down her face, but there was steel underneath. Every story, every accusation, it was all about your revenge. Not love, not us, just you. His rage flared again, but it was hollow now, almost pitiful. He raised his hand as if to protest, but words failed him. His lips trembled, his shoulders heaved. He looked less like a man and more like a cornered child, angry that his game had ended. You ruined me, he shouted at me instead, spittle flying. You ruined my life, and now you've ruined hers. No, I said quietly, never breaking his gaze. You did that yourself. The room erupted in whispers. Neighbors shook their heads. The witnesses muttered under their breath. For the first time, the world wasn't watching me, it was watching him. And he knew it. His dignity collapsed right there. He dropped back into the chair, his head in his hands, rocking like he could undo what had just happened. My daughter stared at him, horror etched across her face. I don't even know who you are, she whispered. He looked up at her then, his eyes bloodshot, his chest heaving. I'm the man who loved you, he croaked. But even he didn't believe it. Her tears fell faster. She shook her head. No, you're the man who used me. Those words hit harder than any evidence I had laid on the table. His whole body sagged, deflating. His shoulders slumped. His hands trembled against his knees. The rage was gone. What was left was emptiness. He tried one last time, a desperate whisper. Please, don't leave me. But my daughter stood. She wiped her face, steadied her breathing, and said the words that ended everything. I already have. I swear. The room itself exhaled. The witnesses shifted. My neighbors nodded, their suspicions confirmed. The weight I'd carried for years lifted, not completely, but enough to let me breathe. He had lost. His obsession, his lies, his cruelty, they had all backfired. Karma had done its work, and he was left with nothing but ashes. Still, as he sat there trembling, his hands gripping the edge of the chair like he might collapse, I couldn't shake the chill running down my spine. Because even in defeat, His eyes glowed with something dangerous. I thought his downfall would mean the end. But when he finally lifted his head, the look in his eyes told me this wasn't over. I thought victory would taste sweet. Instead, it felt like ash on my tongue. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. For years, I begged for silence, prayed for peace. But when it finally came, it pressed against my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. I sat alone at the table, the same table where his rage had cracked open like thunder. In my palm lay the bracelet, cold, heavy, unyielding. The same bracelet he once used as a weapon, proof of loyalty, a chain disguised as a gift. I turned it over, the metal catching faint streaks of light from the window. For so long, I believed it cursed. Every fight, every lie, every bruise seemed tied to it. But now I saw it differently. You always hated that thing. My daughter's voice echoed in my memory. I didn't hate it, I had told her once. I hated what it stood for. Now the words struck differently. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe it never stood for him at all. Maybe it was always a reminder. Truth has weight, and it cannot be hidden forever. The silence stretched until the creak of floorboards broke it. My daughter appeared in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes swollen from hours of tears. She leaned against the frame, her arms crossed tightly across her chest. "You okay?" I asked, my voice softer than I meant. She hesitated, then shook her head. "No, not yet," I nodded. "Honesty, finally, we had that." "Neither am I." She stepped closer, the sound of her bare feet against the wood sharp in the stillness. I keep replaying it in my head. The way he looked at me. The way he grabbed me. I thought he loved me. Her voice cracked, and she pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. I wanted to tell her it would fade, that the pain would dull, but the truth is, it doesn't. Not completely. "I know," I whispered. "I thought he loved me too." Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, all the years between us, the distance, the blame, the silence, they dissolved. She sat across from me. Her hands fidgeted with the edge of the tablecloth, tugging, twisting, like she was trying to unravel something knotted too tightly. "Do you think it's really over?" she asked. The question lodged in my chest. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to give her certainty. But his last look haunted me, the glint in his eyes, the way, even broken, he still looked dangerous. "I think his power over us is over," I said carefully. "But closure, that's something we'll have to build ourselves." She nodded, biting her lip. A single tear rolled down her cheek, and she let it fall without wiping it away. The bracelet pressed into my palm, sharp against my skin. I held it out to her. "Take it," I said. Her brow furrowed. "Why?" "Because it's not a curse anymore. It's proof. Proof of what he was. Proof of what we survived. Don't let it scare you. Let it remind you." She stared at it, hesitant, then slowly reached out. Her fingers brushed mine as she took it, her grip shaking at first, then steadier. For the first time, I saw resolve in her eyes. Not joy, not peace, but strength. We sat in silence, mother and daughter, two survivors bound not by his lies anymore, but by truth. The past had left scars, some visible, most not. But scars meant healing. They meant we had bled, but we had not died. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the silence wash over me. For years, the bracelet felt like a chain. Now, in her hands, it looked like something else. A promise. Justice came, but it left its shadows. And as I watched her clutch that bracelet, I realized the story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. I thought I had buried him with the truth, but monsters don't stay buried, they wait. The days that followed felt strange, almost artificial. My house smelled like bleach and burned candles, a desperate attempt to scrub away his presence. My daughter and I spoke softly, like survivors in the aftermath of a storm, careful not to touch the shards still scattered between us. For the first time in months, I believed it was over. Until the letter came. It arrived folded, hand-delivered, no return address. My heart lurched the second I saw my name written across the front, sharp, deliberate strokes, like the ink itself carried malice. I didn't want to open it. God, I didn't even want to touch it. But I did. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the page, the sound loud as thunder in the silent kitchen. His handwriting. The sight of it was enough to make bow rise in my throat. "You think you've won," the letter began. "But people like me don't lose." "Not really." My hands shook. I forced myself to keep reading. "You exposed me. You turned her against me. But you can't erase me. I'm in her memories. I'm in yours. Every shadow in that house, every creak of the floorboards, it'll be me. I'll always be there. I felt my knees weaken, and I sank into the chair. The words blurred, but I blinked hard, forcing them into focus. This isn't the end. Not for you. Not for me. You'll never see me coming. The paper slipped from my grip and floated to the floor. No. My voice cracked. My daughter, hearing me, rushed in from the living room. Mom? What is it? I tried to hide it, but the letter lay at her feet, glaring up at us both. She bent down, picked it up, and read in silence. Her lips trembled. He's still out there. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper. Or he wants us to believe he is. Her hands clenched the page so tightly it crumpled. He's sick. He's trying to scare us. That's all this is. But even as she said it, I saw the fear flicker in her eyes. I wanted to believe it was empty. Just another one of his manipulations, a final grasp at control. But something about the way he wrote, the certainty, the venom, it didn't read like desperation. It read like a promise. I stood pacing, my hand clutching the edge of the table to steady myself. The room seemed smaller, darker. Every corner looked like it could hide him. Every sound made my heart stutter. He's gone, I whispered, trying to convince myself. He lost. But the shadows stretching across the floor seemed to whisper otherwise. My daughter grabbed my arm. We can go to the police. Show them this. I shook my head. What will they do? File it away? Tell us to call if something happens? He's too careful. He always was. Her voice rose, panic spilling out. So what? We just wait. Pretend everything's normal until he shows up again? Her words stabbed through me. She was right. Waiting was exactly what he wanted. I sat back down, burying my face in my hands. My chest ached with dread. For one fragile moment, I had believed the nightmare was finished. And now, just like that, he pulled me back into it. The bracelet still lay on the counter, a silent witness. My daughter looked at it, then at me, her voice breaking. What if this never ends? I couldn't answer her. Because deep down, I felt it too, the truth I didn't want to speak aloud. He said he would always be watching. And as I sat there in the silence of my own home, I swore I felt his eyes on me.